Today's story took place in 2010 in one of the towns in Lebanon. Now, what happened in 2010 was that people, I would say literally 2,000 to 3,000 men gathered and they were waiting for something to happen. Now, this town, the name of this town is Ketermaya, and it is a Lebanese local authority which is located in Shof district, an administrative division of the Mount Lebanon Governorate. Now, you would say that Lebanon specifically and the towns are in control of Hezbollah, but this town, I would say, is one of the towns which has the population is maximum Sunni Muslims or Christians. Now, what happened? Why were these, I would say, men waiting? They were waiting for the police to arrive. There were almost 5 cars which were about to arrive and enter this town, and specifically a road or a house where a crime had taken place. Police had to arrive with the forensic department and the men, I would say officers, from the investigation which had taken place to the crime scene, so that this man or this criminal here had to represent or show how he had committed the crime. You would say maybe these men are waiting to see the crime, but I'm talking about 2,000 to 3,000 men waiting. It's not possible that these were people will actually enter or see the crime scene altogether. Or it's not possible that they're waiting to just see a man or his face or his features, which were already been given in the social media or in the media, I would say. So the reason here was that as soon as the police arrived, they stopped the cars and then they grabbed the man, and the policemen were trying their best to stop such a thing to happen, but they couldn't, because they also attacked and they literally charged the policeman, and they took this man away. When they took this man away, they started hitting and beating him, and they completely tore off his clothes. When he was almost naked, they took him into a car and I would say drove him over the whole village or the whole town, and later they hung him and he was dead, of course, after all this people actually hitting him with their hands and legs and whatever they could. I mean, he didn't last for long. The man actually died and expired. So later they took this criminal and they hung him onto a pole with rope around his neck. So what could be the story? If he's a criminal, then there's a crime. And if there is a crime, there is also a witness and videos, of course, showing how this crime had taken place. If you're interested and you think your heart can bear any scene, if you think you can handle, you can actually go to the channel of Abu Talal Hamrani, and I will be giving the YouTube related to the same story in Arabic, and go to his Instagram account for the video and watch the video. And it's actually all over the media. You can only write Ketermaya crime and it will pop out. Now, what happened? How did the crime take place? There were 4 family members. 2 were, I would say, grandparents, and that means they were old, a man and his wife, and 2 children whose ages were around 6 to 7 years. And these children were of their son, who used to work in Saudi Arabia. He was a divorced man, and he left his kids, and they were raising his children, and he traveled to Dammam in Saudi Arabia for his work. Now, what we know about this family, that this man was a very calm, peaceful man, and he didn't really get involved into fights, or he had very good relationship with everyone. Now, once a man, I would say an anonymous man, entered the house. The timing, I would say, it was morning, when children have left for the schools and people have left for their jobs. So this man entered the house of this old man and his wife. He entered, and the first thing he saw was the old man. He grabbed the old man and started hitting him and then cutting him into pieces. As he entered the house, he found the old man and he grabbed him and started stabbing him in a weird way. After stabbing him, he, of course, stabbed him on his chest, on the side of his abdomen, his neck. He stabbed him literally 20 times. And when he was dead, he took the body, and started cutting off into pieces. He started cutting off his ears, his nose, his whatever he could into small pieces. After listening to this, one could think that it could be a subject of revenge, or that is what it seemed. Because no matter what, if it was, I would say, a case of robbery and murder, it couldn't end up like that. A person would literally kill the man or murder the man, grab what he was there to take or to steal, and leave. But this man was sitting and actually cutting off pieces. Sorry to say, as if he was in a butcher's store. Did he stop? He didn't. After cutting and stabbing this old man, he took the body and he kept it in one of the rooms, locked the door, and threw the key from underneath the door inside the room itself. Was he done? Was he finished? No, he was not. He was waiting for the old woman to arrive. The moment she arrived, of course, she was shocked, but he grabbed her and did the same. He started stabbing this woman. Was he done? Was that enough? Do you think that he was over with what he came for? He literally grabbed her and took her to one of the washrooms. And here he started cutting her. Actually, I would say dissecting her parts and stabbing her whatever way he could use. He was someone who was so furious and angry about something. We would literally say that he would have some kind of, I would say, mental disease, or he would have a psychological problem. That's why he's dealing with people in such a way. No one has an excuse to do a crime. Not every now and then, if a crime takes place, people literally say, this man was psychologically ill. The rate of crime or crimes are taking place over the world. It's nonsense if you say that every person, each one of them, man and woman, are psychologically ill. That's why they commit a crime. There's no reason whatsoever. Back to the story. After he grabbed this old woman and took her to the bathroom or washroom and started cutting her or slicing her body parts, locked the door, I would say, took the keys, threw the keys underneath the door. He did the same with the man. He locked the man in the living room or in one of the rooms, I would say, and took the keys and threw it underneath the door. We wish he could end this. We wish he could have stopped. But he continued. Now he was waiting for the children to arrive. So when the children arrived, the boy and the girl, whose ages were almost 6 to 7 years, he attacked the girl because she entered at first. She tried to escape, but he grabbed her and stabbed her and left her on the floor. She was screaming. Then he grabbed the boy so that the boy wouldn't escape and started stabbing him. When he stabbed him and he started cutting off the body of the boy, the girl here was screaming and she couldn't do anything. She was lying and watching her brother being stabbed and killed in front of her eyes. When he was done with the boy, he went to the girl and slaughtered her. He cut her throat. He grabbed the body of the boy and the girl and did the same. He took in one of the rooms, locked the door, and threw the key underneath the door. Everything was so well, I would say, planned for some odd reason. After finishing this, he simply walked away. Nobody had noticed that the crime had took place until the next day, when one of the old ladies, a neighbor, arrived to actually check on her friend, the old lady. She entered the house after, of course, knocking the door several times. She found that the door was open and she entered. She couldn't see anything, of course, or anyone, but she could see blood stains on the floor. And here she felt that something was wrong, so she immediately informed her children. Here her children came and checked and informed the police too. When the police arrived, of course, they opened each and every door, the 2 rooms and 1 washroom, and they found the bodies. They thought that who could have done, or who could have been so ruthless, who had no pity, or a heartless, cruel being who had done such a thing. And why? As I said, the family was a family with who have never been involved into any problems. They were actually a very peaceful family, I would say. Upon searching, they couldn't find any evidence. The crime that had occurred had no specific evidence, and it was not clear who could be the suspect. This may sound weird, but within this span of few days, I would say 3 to 4 days, they were able to find the killer. They were able to find without even there would be cameras recording the streets or at least some kind of evidence. They found this man who was their neighbor of 26 years, and he was from Egypt. He was an Egyptian. His name was Muhammad Salim Muslim or Musallim. Now they got hold on to this man, and they asked him to confess. Of course, they asked, did you do this? Did you commit this crime? And somehow they said that he had confessed. He had already confessed, and the police is saying, yeah, he did. Yes, he's the one who did it. On listening to this, the police, I would say the village deputies of Lebanon, said that he should be executed in front of everyone. He should be executed so everyone could learn a lesson of what would happen to someone doing such a thing or committing a crime in an area. Actually, Ketermaya is, I would say, an area where crime rates are low, so we don't expect such things to happen. Now, Muhammad was taken to the central prison, and of course, they had to listen to what he had to say. They had to know what was the reason was, and according to what was published, there was no specific reason. But they did say that he had confessed, and he was ready to present or show how he had committed the crime in presence of the prosecutors. I repeat till now, what he said was that there was no specific reason. No specific reason of taking one body after the other and slaughtering them in such a way. Anyways, so 3 cars with this suspect had arrived or were leaving for the village. The villagers here gathered, and I said they gathered very desperately, very anxiously, because there were 2,000 to 3,000 men who were waiting to attack. The 3 cars included, of course, officers, investigators, people from the forensic department. These people were supposed to be, or the people of Ketermaya are calm people. So what turned them at this very moment into monsters? They attacked crazily. It had never occurred before. This happened on the 3rd day of the funeral, when the 3rd day of the funeral had taken place. Well, as I said before, they grabbed the man, the suspect, and they started hitting him and beating him and literally killed him during this process of grabbing one person, throwing the person to the other. And the suspect was not killed by knife. He was not slaughtered. The revenge was bad. What he had done, it was wrong. But the act these people did was impossible. No one could agree to it. Even the law itself, he would be scared. Maybe he didn't do it. Maybe he was scared at the time he arrived to the police station. I mean, he was a foreigner for them. He was an Egyptian in the country, in Lebanon, which was not even his country. So he would be scared or petrified to confess. It could have happened. Maybe he was not guilty. It was not right to take law in your own hands. It was no joke. Maybe he was innocent. Sometimes there are criminals, I would say suspects, not criminals to be exact. When they are guilty of something, or they say that you guilty of something, at the very beginning, they would say yes. Maybe they would be afraid that the police or the investigators, the police specifically, would use some way of making them confess, like hitting them or beating them, or I would say that moment itself for some people who are very innocent or never involved in crimes, have never been to the police station, would be in such a way they would be actually scared. I can use this word. There's nothing wrong with it. But was he innocent? No one knows. Maybe the real criminal would have escaped. Now about this man, his profile. This man, as I said, was a 26-year-old Egyptian, and he came to Lebanon, and especially to this town of Ketermaya. Now you would say especially in very various countries, when foreigners arrive, they aim for actually living or starting a business or a new life in the capital city. So we would say here that he could have gone to Beirut. Why did he go to a town or a village like Ketermaya? The reason was, first of all, he was a married man and had a son, and he had spent all his life in Egypt. But he arrived just 4 months before the crime had taken place to Lebanon. Why? His mother was a Lebanese, and she was married to his father, and she took a divorce, left her son, and went back to Lebanon and married again. And after, maybe she was in contact with her son for 25 years, I would say, but she promised her son that, why don't you come to Lebanon? You're my only son. Why don't you come to Lebanon? And I would provide you with car, with a good job, everything that you deserve, because again, you're my only son. And this man left his family, left his wife and gave her a divorce, left his son, and went to Lebanon for better opportunities, as the mother had promised. But then again, she asked him to work with her husband, who was a butcher. Well, the husband here was not extremely happy because he didn't like his presence, maybe. So he had to work in the slaughterhouse or the butchery. But instead, he was hardly given the work of a butcher, more of he was given the work of a man to clean, wipe, mop, or do other things. So he was maybe bothered that he was promised, he's not given what he was promised by his mother. To move further, he knew that it was a lie. What was told was different, very different from what he was facing. And he did know that his mother's husband was an exploitive man. And he worked at the butchery as normal. So people took that as something that would be a reason of him cutting the bodies into pieces or slicing them. Because maybe he was the one, or he was a suspect because he worked as a butcher. And also because he's a foreigner. These were the reasons they thought the suspect would have killed them. The reasons that got connected to the case itself. Now, they also said that this man here, when he was younger, he had an accident, and that made him, he didn't thought like a normal person, or he had, as I said, a psychological problem that would make him kill these people. Therefore, he committed this crime. The person was not given the opportunity as a suspect to prove that he was not guilty. The story of Muhammad and his life ended by the hands of the people of Ketermaya. And they didn't find who was the exact killer out of these thousands of men. So that's it, and thank you for listening.